The kidnap and murder of Sarah Everard is a case that has not only shocked the City of London, but the whole of the UK. It's involved a complex and fast-moving investigation which has ultimately led to the arrest of one of the most shocking and unlikeliest of suspects, a serving officer of the Metropolitan Police. As with all of the cases that we cover, sadly, there is always a victim, and in this case, it was Sarah. Hopefully, by raising awareness to her story and to some of the important issues it has raised, her death will not be in vain. Sarah Everard was a marketing manager for a digital media agency. She was 33 years old. Originally from York, she had lived in London for the past 12 years, residing in the Brixton Hill area of South London after graduating from Durham University in 2008, where she studied human geography. She was a popular and lively member of the university's community and a beloved graduate. Her family have described her as a strong, principled young woman and a shining example to us all. Her boyfriend Josh was the last person to speak to her on the phone as she made her way home from a friend's house situated just west of Clapham Common, South London. She had been visiting a friend from university for dinner, and like probably many women have done at some point in their life, instead of catching a cab, she decided to walk home. It's believed that she never made it. Her boyfriend was also the one to report her disappearance to the police. After very much out of character, Sarah failed to turn up for a meeting at work the following day and failed to meet him as planned. In the days that followed, police surveyed video footage, knocked on doors, spoke to more than 750 people and searched parklands and ponds for evidence to help find Sarah. Exactly 1 week after Sarah's disappearance, the police investigation led them to an area of woodland just outside Ashford in Kent, over 50 miles away from where Sarah had disappeared. At 4:20 p.m. on the 10th of March, Sarah's remains were discovered. Shockingly and disturbingly, a serving Metropolitan Police officer, Wayne Couzens, from Deal in Kent, has been arrested and charged with Sarah's kidnap and murder. His Ukrainian-born wife was also arrested at the same time on suspicion of assisting an offender and has subsequently been released on bail to return to a police station sometime in mid-April. Her involvement at this time is somewhat shrouded in mystery. The police force have said that it has referred itself to the police watchdog, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, following Wayne's arrest. An inquest into Sarah's death has been opened and adjourned until the end of criminal proceedings. A second post-mortem, independent of the police, was ordered after the first one failed to reveal her cause of death. Sarah's body has since been returned to her family, with the chief coroner confident that they now have the answers that they need. So let's take a closer look at the case details. It was on the evening of March 3rd that Sarah vanished. She left her friend's home in Leithwaite Road in Clapham at around 9 p.m. It's believed that she left through a back gate and she walked across Clapham Common along the A205 South Circular Road back towards her house in Brixton. This walk should have taken her around 50 minutes, but it's believed that she never made it home. Sarah made a phone call to her boyfriend on her way, which lasted about 15 minutes, and she agreed to meet him the next day. This call they know ended at around 9:27. There was no further activity on her mobile phone, and since that time, there was no social media presence. Her phone has not yet been recovered despite widespread searches. Police were able to some degree plot Sarah's route on her way home. She was captured alone on CCTV at 9:15 and again at 9:28 from a doorbell camera on Poinders Road, which saw her walking alone towards Tulse Hill, a place which lies south of Brixton. She was also captured 4 minutes later on the dashcam of a passing police car. Here's the key locations. 9th of March, two suspects were arrested in connection with Sarah's disappearance. One is Wayne Couzens, a firearms officer for the Metropolitan Police. The other, his wife, were both detained at the officer's home in Deal, Kent, about 30 miles from where Sarah was found. Wayne Couzens was arrested on suspicion of the kidnap and murder of Sarah. His wife for assisting an offender. The arrest has obviously sent shockwaves and anger throughout both the public and the Metropolitan Police. Wayne Couzens is 48. He's a father of two. As I say, he's a serving firearms officer in the Met Police's Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command Unit. This is an armed unit responsible for guarding London's diplomatic buildings and embassies. He joined the Met in September 2018 and he was initially based in the Bromley area before he moved to his latest role in February of 2020. His Ukrainian-born wife for 15 years, a mother of two, also works for the police as a lab technician. They married back in 2006 after meeting in Switzerland where she was working, and they were living at their family home in Deal, Kent, about 75 miles from Clapham, where Sarah disappeared. They had been living there for 4 years together with two children. Following the day of his arrest on March 10th, Sarah was found. Her remains were located at a derelict former paintball and leisure park in a secluded area of woodland known as Hodes Wood in Great Chart near Ashford in Kent. She was found in a large bag similar to ones used by builders to transport heavy loads. Identification was made by dental records. Following this grim discovery, the Met Police launched a series of searches initially focused on the abandoned leisure park where Sarah's remains were found. This was then followed by a number of towns in Kent, including a property in Deal, a site in Dover, and also large sections of the town of Sandwich. After 2 weeks of investigations, the police presence in Kent has slowly decreased. What they may or may not have recovered has not, and likely will not yet be disclosed. Now, the breakthrough in this case is said to be down to two sources of video footage. One was from the CCTV captured by a passing bus in South London, and the other was from a motorist dashcam, which captured a vehicle linked to Wayne Couzens. This footage allegedly led police to the suspects. The camera on the bus in question was travelling along the same route where Sarah disappeared. The motorist dashcam footage has spotted the car linked to the suspect near to where Sarah was last seen and was then tracked by ANPR cameras. It's been claimed that the suspect Wayne Couzens had worked a relief shift from 2 p.m. at the American Embassy in 9 Elms, southwest London, until 8 p.m. of the night that Sarah went missing. This embassy is around 3 miles from where Sarah was seen on somebody's doorbell CCTV footage at 9:30 p.m. in Clapham. Wayne Couzens is accused of kidnapping Sarah in the Pointers Road area of Clapham when he was off duty. Did he manage to entice Sarah into his car using some form of official ID? Did he convince her that it wasn't safe to walk alone across South London at that time of the evening? There is said to be no link at all between Wayne Couzens and Sarah. Sarah's death has prompted an outpouring of grief from the public, with many women and girls sharing stories of their own traumatic experiences. One unnamed woman has even claimed that she was sexually assaulted on the same night and in the same area of South London where Sarah disappeared. She says she felt a creeping sickness in her stomach after seeing posters of Sarah. After learning that she had been sexually assaulted that same night in a separate incident in the same part of London, the unnamed woman knew that she had to speak to police, even if she was scared to do so. She said that she feared the man who attacked her could be watching from a distance, and said that many women have worried that reporting a smaller crime will somehow put them in the path of a greater one. It's not known whether or not it was helpful in this investigation or linked to Sarah's case, but it does clearly indicate that in that small corner of South London that night, more than one woman was a target of an attacker. More and more women have come forward with their accounts on social media claiming they have been victims of indecent exposure or attempted abductions. Are we sadly at a place in society where some women calmly accept their experiences as part of being a woman? How many other women have had similar experiences and remain quiet? More women are being encouraged to come forward over abuse that they have received on the streets, claiming they should no longer let their fears go unspoken. Certainly, as a man myself and as a father of a young daughter, it saddens me that women should have to worry about going out on the streets alone. And this case has quite rightly raised wider concerns about the safety of women in public places, not just in London, but anywhere. Hundreds of thousands of women across the UK have downloaded safety apps onto their phones since Sarah's death. Her tragic murder has shone a light on the fears that many women experience in their daily lives, especially since Sarah was allegedly murdered by a police officer, somebody who was supposed to be there to protect them. Here are some of the more popular apps: Hollie Guard, Safe in the City, and WalkSafe. These can all be downloaded. I'm going to put the links to these apps in the video description if anybody is interested in taking a look. Now, these apps can be set to instantly send your location together with audio and video evidence to your selected contacts at the shake or tap of your phone in a moment of danger. They can be set up for that. They can also help people plan a course of travel using official crime data and anonymous reports of incidents of sexual harassment or assault. A single SOS button that connects you directly to the police is also a useful feature. I figure that these kind of apps are going to frighten some people, and we really shouldn't need them, but anything that can help provide valuable information and help people to make well-informed choices has to be of value in my mind. A few days after Sarah's body was found, a vigil was held on Clapham Common, which led to a lot of controversy surrounding the police response and disregard for the COVID-19 pandemic regulations. Over the past weeks, the Victorian bandstand on Clapham Common has become a site of commemoration for Sarah. Just recently, Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, was seen paying her tributes and leaving flowers to go with the thousands that have already been left. So what now? Well, Wayne Couzens' first court appearance was on Saturday, March 13th. He appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court. Before a few days later, he appeared at the Old Bailey via video link from the Category A Belmarsh prison in South East London, where he was formally charged with the murder and kidnap of Sarah Everard. The prosecution informed the judge that there had been a significant and wide-ranging investigation in this case. A plea hearing of July 9th was set at the Old Bailey as Wayne Couzens was remanded in custody. A provisional trial date was set for October 25th, and that's expected to last for at least 4 weeks. Now, very little or very few details or information has been published publicly regarding this case, and the evidence that will be presented in court, as I say, hasn't really been spoken about yet, and there is a reason for this. Now, in the UK, there are a number of reporting restrictions that are put in place from the moment an individual is arrested. When an arrest is made, a case becomes what they call active under the Contempt of Court Act 1981. Now, the primary purpose of this is to prevent anything that creates a substantial risk of serious prejudice or impediment to these proceedings. This essentially is put in place to prevent the publication of anything that could prejudice jurors at a potential trial. That includes any material that gives the impression that an individual is likely to have committed an offence. When the case becomes active, only non-prejudicial information about an alleged incident can be published. Non-prejudicial background information can also be put out there. Automatic reporting restrictions are also in place when an individual makes a first appearance at a magistrate's court. A defendant charged with a serious offence, in this case murder of course, cannot be tried by magistrates. Instead, they will have a preliminary hearing at a magistrate's court, and then at that hearing a date is set for the defendant to appear at a Crown Court. This is UK. Section 52A of the Crime and Disorder Act also limit what can be reported from these hearings. Now, these restrictions are designed to avoid any reference to evidence in the case or any material that will generally create a risk of prejudice. Reporting is limited to certain particular points, such as the name of the court, the name of the magistrates, the name, age, address, occupation of the defendant, the charges that he faces, any bail arrangements, and the date and place to which the case has been adjourned. At least one hearing will take place at a Crown Court before a trial takes place. Wayne Couzens, as I say, is set for July 9th. Again, at this type of hearing, similar reporting restrictions are put in place. Now, when a jury is selected and a trial begins, the media can publish full reports of what they are told in the trial. That is because the jury cannot be prejudiced by publication of information of which they've already been told about in court. The media have absolute privilege in reporting of court cases where the report is fair and accurate. It provides a summary from both the prosecution and defence, and it contains no inaccuracies, does not give disproportionate weight to one side or the other. So in the case of Wayne Couzens, if it does reach trial, which I'm pretty sure it will, the prosecution and defence will argue their respective cases at the Old Bailey in front of 12 jurors. As I mentioned previously, they've put a provisional date in for the start of a trial to October 25th. You know, whatever anyone argues, every woman should feel safe to walk the streets without fear of harassment or violence. In fact, every man, woman and child should be safe to walk the streets. Sadly, of course, we know that's not true. So it's how do we go about fixing this? How do we go about making this a reality? Instead of protecting our daughters, should we also be educating our sons? The UK's Home Secretary, Priti Patel, announced that new laws are being considered to protect women against sexual harassment in public, including the potential of making public harassment a specifically defined crime. What we have here, though, is a case of kidnap, murder, ultimate violence. So what is the answer? In response to Sarah's disappearance, women were reportedly advised to avoid going out alone. Yet at the same time, the Commissioner for the Met Police was seeking to reassure women that instances of abduction and murder are rare. Heavy-handedness from the police during recent vigils to remember Sarah also raised concerns about the way that women are treated by authorities when demonstrating against sexual harassment and violence. One popular argument is that penalising and physically handling women at a vigil didn't just ignore some women's fear of authorities, but also suggested that women shouldn't be speaking out at all. Some women present at these vigils are claiming that they were forcefully pushed and pinned to the ground after only being there to pay respects and lay a candle for Sarah. Contradictory messages certainly don't help the discussions of violence against women. Sadly, sexual harassment and violence by men seems almost inevitable, and women are almost conditioned to believe the fears that they have are normal. But then there are times when women are often made to feel like they are overreacting and that this violence is in fact rare. Many women already are extra vigilant about their surroundings when they are out in public, especially alone or in the dark, and it's pretty sad that they have to be like this in order to avoid the risk of sexual harassment and violence from men. Avoiding dark streets, not wearing headphones, not going out alone, simply so they can avoid being held partially responsible for any incident that may happen. A much simpler answer, to me, men, is for us to play our part and help stop the violence. And hopefully, Sarah's death will not be in vain.